Mahdunko tänne? Onko teillä salaisuuksia? No niin, hyvä. Mullakin pitää saada näin, pystyy syömään. Ja sinne pitää laittaa hunajaa noin.
Niin, kyllä joo.
Joo.
Muut hoitaa tekniikan.
Joo. Ai niin, ja tää täältä irti.
Joo, mut joo, et sinne raportointiin ja sen työsuhteen hoitamista ja pidätytystä ja se on se kokonaisalla käytännössä. Sit se vähän vaihtelee sitten kuukausittain, että missä niinku on eniten. Mut joo, voi kuvitella, toi meillähän just joutuu ikkuihin taas ei mene yhtään aikaa. Niinku vielä tämmönen konsulttiala, niin sitten tuntuu, että siellä aina sairaalakin tekee töitä.
Niin, enemmän joutuu käskemään saikulle.
Onneksi ei ole vielä tarvinnut, mutta kuitenkin. Joo.
Missä firmassa sä oot?
No mä oon semmoisessa, se on MiB Engine-niminen yritys.
MiB Engine?
Joo,
aha, okei.
Okay. Lääketieteellistä konsultointia lääketieteollisuudelle.
Ja sinä?
Mä Esperillä.
Esperi Care, okei. No niin. Ja teettekö te molemmat siis HR-hommia?
Joo.
Okei. No niin. Mä oon perustanut johdon suorahakutoimiston Avant Advisors. Mä oon tuossa puhujana kohta paneelissa. Joo. Eli semmoinen johdon suorahakutoimisto, jonka tehtävänä on, tai missiona on edistää naisjohtajuutta ja diversiteettiä kaiken kaikkiaan. Joo. Se on varmaan sun, joo.
Onko minkä ikäinen yritys sulla?
3,5 vuotta on ollut yrittäjä, mutta sitä enemmän on ollut isoissa korporaatioissa tehnyt monenlaista. Esperistä mä tunnen entisen henkilöstöjohtaja Eeva Loven aika hyvin. Onko ollut sun aikana vai?
Ei, mä tulin Marian aikana.
Okei, joo.
Mä oon se hullu, joka tää pamahti lehtiin tammikuussa, niin mä olin maaliskuun 4. päivä töissä siellä jo. Mutta tuli Heini Pirttijärven perässä.
Tunnen Heini joo hyvin.
Joo. Hän on ihan mun lemppari-ihmisiä, niin
joo.
kuulin, että hänet valittiin tonne.
Toi, mikä mulla on tässä tämmönen oma. Niin, että käsi. So, welcome to all you valuable participants and all on the streaming to virtually also participating. You are warmly welcome to participate this seminar about diversity, equity and inclusion. My name is Tua Pelli. I'm from KPMG, People and Change Advisory Services Department. And DEI is really one of my favorite topics. And I have been supporting training and working with organizations over 20 years to support objective assessment and equal opportunities for employees regarding recruitment, performance management, succession planning. And here at KPMG, we are honored about the great cooperation with MiB. And we already recently organized a training for a board training, which included also one module about DEI. So thrilled to be here today, and I'm acting as your host. So, Tuovi.
Yes, let's see if the microphone works. Great to have you here today. Welcome on behalf of Mothers in Business. I'm Tuovi Persnahan. MiB is a non-profit advocating for equal and family-friendly working life. We're a network of women and mothers in Finland, and my work is to lead the international project at MiB, which means that we've been opening up our doors for more diverse people, the mothers living in Finland that have moved here from somewhere else. This is our 5th DE&I seminar actually already, and the first one where we touch the leadership angle a little more. Super thrilled to be here today with all of you and with KPMG and for the support that MIB på Svenska and Svenska Kulturfondet has also brought to this event. We have great speakers on board today. Excited. Enjoy and connect with other ones today, please, because we are always stronger when we're making the change together. Welcome.
Thank you. So, and just to add here, we are in the KPMG house today, so diversity, equity and inclusion is really a foundational part of KPMG and our values. So it resonates really well to host you today. And I also want to share that DEI is not just the buzzwords. It's really about the foundational principles about the organizations, about the society, and ensuring that every individual feels respected, valued, and empowered to express their true selves. And my personal favorite quote is from a poem from 1870, so 1870, and it states here, every individual nature has its own beauty. So every individual's nature has its own beauty. So really crystallizing that the strength lies in differences and not in similarities. And today we have a fantastic agenda. So if you look about the agenda, so we have both concrete examples, experiences about working with diversity, inclusion and equity. And then we have a panel discussion to really get the insights from pioneers here in Finland working with the DEI issues and tasks. And then we focus more on the concrete example from LIDL. And then also we have Miikka Huhta sharing, who just recently published a book about DEI in workplaces. And at the end, we have also possibility to then involve all of you. And as you know, we human beings, we want to get the information about the knowledge, about the experiences. But in order to make it happen in everyday life, it needs to kind of transform from the cognitive brain to the emotional and really puts on the heart. And that happens when we talk and we share experiences. And regarding then the workshop we have at the end, so I really encourage all of you to be and showcase about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So share your thoughts, be curious, ask others inputs and insights, and work together to kind of start the journey, continue the journey about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And let's be the catalyst for the positive change. So let's get started. Before we go to the first presentation, a couple of key points here. So coffee and some breakfast, I think everybody has received. We are taking some photos. So if any of you don't want to be in photos, please let us know. So we appreciate that. And as said, we have quite tight schedule. So, and I'm sure when listening about our keynote speakers, you have maybe questions. So please write those down, and then we can touch point those in the workshop situation. So enjoy, and I would like to invite our first keynote speaker, Yumi Oishi from Rovio.
I'm really short, so I have to adjust this to my head. Hi everyone, my name is Yumi Oishi. It's a very common Japanese and Korean name. A very easy way to remember my name is to think you and me. Okay, my pronouns are she, her. I'm currently the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Rovio. So today, I'm going to talk about unleashing the strengths of a global background. But before I dive into the content, before I talk about unleashing the strengths, I thought I'll first start off by talking about the definition of what I personally think about when I think about global background. As a D&I practitioner, I think it's super important to acknowledge the privileges that I've had. So I'll quickly go through about what privileges I've had that enabled me to have this global background. Third part, I finally go into actually talking about the strengths that I've hopefully developed during this journey of developing this global background. Then the meat of the talk is I finally will talk about how I have seen myself unleashing those strengths. And last but not least, I'll have a couple of parting words and some messages for you all in the room. And of course, the folks on the stream as well. How's that sound? Awesome, cool, thank you. I'm super nervous because today I'm sharing my personal story. Talking about my job is so easy. I just talk about D&I, but talking about myself is super nervous. So please bear with me. And if I feel super nervous, do something. And please try to have fun with me. Okay. So out of full transparency, when Linda from Mothers in Business, when Linda first reached out to me and she asked me, hey, Yumi, can you talk about unleashing the strengths of a global background? I thought, what is a global background? I have personally struggled with this. I don't see myself as a person with having a global background. So I really asked myself, what is it? So with that, I started to think, I have a couple of examples of what I think global background at least means for me. Who wants to have a guess what the photo on the upper left-hand side is? This is me when I was a kid. Who wants to guess where this is? This is late 1980s. No? Okay, yeah. Who wants to guess? California. Do you want to go a little bit to the east side of the U.S.? But correct, the right country. Okay, then I'll give the answer. So this is me. This is late 1980s in New Jersey. So I was born in Japan in the early 80s, but because of my dad's job, he was working in Manhattan. His company transferred him, very common thing for working at a big Japanese company. So as a family, we moved to New Jersey in the late 1980s. So this is me riding in the neighborhood on a bicycle. This is my brother's old bicycle. That's why it's like this very masculine mountain bike. So that was my first continent, born in Asia, so born in Japan, but then at a very early age, I was living in the US. So I ended up living in New Jersey for a good 8 years of my life, and when I was 10 years old, I went back to Japan. I spent all my teen years, my university days in the US, also all my dating and all that was all in Japan. But then when I was in university, I missed the US so much because I grew up watching Beverly Hills 90210. I was watching Saved by the Bell. I was watching all these US what is it called, the rom-coms. So that's why I missed that. So I wanted to go back to the US again. So I don't have a picture here, but I did 1 year exchange. And this time I went to California. So in total, I lived in the US for 9 whole years. So then university ended. So what happened after that is I have to find a job. I go look for a job. And what's my first stint in my career? I landed at Nokia, but in the Tokyo office. So this was before smartphone days. And as you can imagine, Nokia was so good at their mission of connecting people. What happens? You meet a Finnish partner. So that's how I ended up. That's why I'm in Finland to this day, because my husband, my partner, is Finnish. But just because we got married in our 20s didn't mean I went immediately I came immediately here to Finland. There was actually a journey in between. So then comes the next photo. Who wants to guess where the photo is on the rectangular long photo? Okay, we have Avant. Switzerland, yes, awesome, correct answer. So I ended up in Switzerland after that. So in my 5 years of my 30s, I was living in Switzerland. So what I didn't mention earlier, in my 20s, after Nokia said, "Oh, you don't want you, Yumi. Smartphone business is going up. Nokia, the non-smartphone business going down. Yumi, you don't want you." So I ended up working at Google Tokyo office, and working at Google landed me a job working at Google Zurich for 5 years of my life. So that's why, yes, I was enjoying my job, but at the same time, I was enjoying my hiking life in Switzerland as well. So that's why I was working at Google Zurich office for 5 years of my life. After that, then what happens? Then you get older in your life and you start to think, I'm kind of tired of all this excitement. I want to settle down. I want to be closer to family. And this time, closer to family meant closer to my husband's family. So that's why in my mid-30s, then we relocated here to Finland. So now I've been living here for 6+ years. So yeah, now I'm in my early 40s. I actually just celebrated my birthday on Monday. So thank you. So yeah, now I'm in my early 30s. I have 3 continents under my belt. So living and working across 3 different continents, and then as I've shared so far, I've had the privilege to work in these very international companies as well. And what that also meant is I've also been able to work on these global projects. So when I was in Tokyo, I was working in part of the Asia Pacific team. So I was very lucky to work not just on work projects in Japan, but projects that, for example, include Korea, China, Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand as well. In Zurich, I was responsible for the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region, so that's why I was involved in these regional projects. And last but not least, now at Rovio, our company is distributed across 6 different countries, so my work also spans across 6 different countries as well. I would say and last but not least, the one thing I'll add in terms of this global background is, I would say just the biggest joy is just to be working with people from different backgrounds. I would say definitely my job right now is of course global as well, but if I look back at my journey at Google Zurich, that point in my life is what, for example, the team I was managing, I was the Japanese person. I had one person who was Slovak, one person who was Polish, one person who was Australian, another person who was German, another person who was Ukrainian. So that was the team that I remember the most when I think global, because there was no majority in the team. Everyone was coming from a different background. So in a way, it was difficult because there was no shared starting point, but at the same time, I felt there was an equal playing ground because everyone's a minority in that team. So with that, again, when Linda reached out to me, I thought, oh, what is a global background? But then when I thought about it, that was my definition of a global background. I also want to add a huge disclaimer, is that I still don't think I'm this uber global background person, because I've met people in my life who speak for, 9 different languages. My Finnish, unfortunately, is still 2,000 words on Duolingo in an app called Drops. So apologies that even though I've been living here for 6 years, it's still 2,000 words. I've never been to Africa. I've never been to South America, for instance. So I don't consider myself to be this uber global background person, but I think I'm mildly global at this point. So that's my global background. Now, as I said, I do want to bring up the fact that as a D&I practitioner, it's so important to acknowledge the privileges that I've had. So maybe I'll do a quick poll and ask, has everyone heard of the word privilege in the context of D&I? Can I see a quick show of hands? Oh my gosh, this is the amazing audience. Okay, so maybe it doesn't apply to the folks in this particular room, but for the folks who haven't heard of the word privilege, I have a quick definition that I pulled from online that may help. So, privilege definition. Privilege is an unearned sustained benefit and advantages that stem from membership in a dominant social group, including, but not limited to, race, class, gender, sexuality, and ability. So that's what privileges mean. So the opening word about unearned sustained benefits. If I use this image as an example, so for instance, I'm non-disabled, I'm heterosexual, I'm neurotypical, and English I learned in my youth. For some of you folks may know that if you go to Japan, I believe roughly 3% of the population speak fluent English. So that means 97% of the population, they don't speak fluent English. So I'm that 3%, major privilege right there. So that's one. Other than that, university degree I have, and as I mentioned earlier, I have a Finnish partner, so I consider that as a major privilege compared to the folks who don't have a partner that speaks the language. So yes, I do have this mild global background, but I do want to acknowledge that that's only been able to be done because I have all these privileges. Okay, let's move on. Okay, good. I think I'm doing good with time. Okay, so finally I will talk about what are the strengths that I've developed as part of this global background. I struggled with this one too. When Linda reached out, I thought strengths? What kind of strengths have I developed? I was only able to come up with one strength that I will share, but I also thought that it's not just strengths. I think I've also gained a lot of knowledge and perspective as part of this journey. I wouldn't really call them strengths per se, but I think I have one knowledge and perspective that I think is relevant to share, so I'll share that. And last but not least, there were tons of learnings, but I also have one key learning that I wanted to share. So I'll start with strengths. In terms of strengths, I could only think of one that's super relevant. And in my case, I think it's just being resourceful. So when you're thrown out to a different environment, you just gotta figure things out. Of course, I can ask for help, but I don't think anyone wants to answer my 100 questions. So of course I will ask for help, but I just had to be resourceful. There's one super tangible story that comes to mind when I think about resourceful that I'm super proud of that I wanted to share. And that story is about a washing machine and a shared laundry room. So yeah, think about this when you go into your laundry room next time. So this is when I had just moved to Switzerland, to Zurich. The company put me into a shared temporary apartment, and then I was there alone. My husband was following me a month afterwards. So in the week, I had started my new job Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I was working, and then I had 4 days worth of laundry. So I go to the shared apartment, the temporary apartment shared laundry room with my dirty laundry, and then I'm standing right there in front of the washing machine, thinking, "Oh my gosh, how do I use this?" For the folks who've lived in Japan, you may know, or have traveled to Japan may know, and if you're trying to do your laundry, you will know that there is no concept of changing the temperature of your laundry. It's just cold water. That's it. So I was so confused. I thought, like, what are these numbers? What do I do with these? What do these pictures mean? I don't know this. So there I am, completely confused, trying to figure out how to use this laundry machine. So what do I do? This was a Saturday. I go back to my room, I start my Googling, and then I go to the manufacturer's website. I land on the Finnish language page, and I think, like, I don't even know what 60 means. Like, what does it mean to wash your clothes in 60 degrees? So I'm just Googling online, thinking, like, in what circumstances do I use 60? In what circumstances do I use 40? When do I use 90? I'm completely confused. But then it dawned on me that if I go to the manufacturer's website, Australia website, then the page is in English. So what I do is I go to that the manufacturer's website, the Australian brochure, download that, and then that's how I spent my Saturday afternoon, just looking at the Switzerland bought washing machines, Australian brochure, and figuring it out how to do. So that was my first Saturday in Switzerland, figuring out how to use the laundry machine. So then Sunday comes along, the next day I wake up, go back to the same laundry room, and then I feel so proud I have figured out how to use the laundry machine. And then I realize, oh shoot, I don't have laundry detergent, what do I do? I completely forgot about buying laundry detergent because I was just fixated about learning how to use the washing machine. But then I look up, there's a couple of like different laundry detergent, and then I was like, oh, maybe I can use this. I guess this is a temporary apartment, so I guess I'll just use this laundry detergent. So yes, I successfully did my laundry. Yes, I did use the laundry detergent that was there in the shared laundry room, and I kept doing that every single weekend, doing my laundry. And it was only when my husband came a month later who told me, Yumi, you're stealing the neighbor's laundry detergent. So that is, that's like a very simple story, but that is how I've had to figure out being resourceful. That sometimes you succeed being resourceful and just do like a happy dance in front of your washing machine, that you're able to figure it out, spend your weekends figuring things out. Sometimes you make mistakes. I was stealing my neighbor's laundry detergent, but that has been my life throughout my life, just trying to figure things out. So hopefully that is one skill that I can claim that I have developed over the years. Okay. Knowledge and perspective. I would say many different knowledge and perspectives that I've gained, but I would say, let's see, I'm just conscious of time. Okay, one main perspective that I wanted to share with this group is I came to Finland, of course, one main reason is because of my partner, but another main reason is because I wanted to know how it feels like to be a woman, to live and work in Finland, in one of the most gender equal countries in the world. So I come from Japan. If you've ever looked at the World Economic Forum ranking and where Japan stands in that ranking, consistently, Japan ranks below the 100th. And it has been going down over the years because the other countries have been progressing. So I genuinely wanted to, what does it feel like? It must feel amazing. And then, but then what surprised me is that I have my women colleagues, I asked them how it is, and I look around the office. I looked at how the gaming industry representation looks like in terms of gender. I look at people, the representation in our leadership. I look at the percentage of women in CEO positions in Finland, and what do I find? Maybe not so much gender equal yet. And of course, when I talk to my colleagues, they share the same perspective. So that was one huge perspective that I gained, that from the outside, I think like, oh my gosh, Finland is amazing. It's perfect. It has figured things out. And I come here and I realize like, oh, maybe not perfect yet. Maybe some work to do. So that I would say like one major perspective that I've gained over the years. And last but not least, the one learning that I've gained that's like something that's super important to me is I've learned that there is no such thing as common sense. Common sense is, I would say like that's my pet peeve, because another tangible example, Finland, Japan, a shared custom is that we take off our shoes when we get inside home, right? But then again, if you look at Beverly Hills 90210, if you look at Saved by the Bell, do they take off their shoes when they enter the house? No, it's just like, for me, it's like taking off your shoes is common sense, because it's like, oh, my house gets dirty. I don't want to vacuum all the time. But that's not common sense. And another common sense I would think about is sometimes you think, oh, the law must clearly state what is common sense, right? But then again, Japan, I believe it's the only G7 country that has still not legalized same-sex marriage. So one would think, oh, shouldn't same-sex marriage be common sense, at least here in the Nordics? But if you go to Japan, which is a so-called developed country, it's still not legalized yet. So again, for me, when I hear the person say, oh, that must be common sense, I get so upset, because I'm like, no, there's no such thing as common sense. So I would say that's one major learning. Okay, so finally, I get to talk about unleashing all those strengths, perspectives, and learnings that I've had. Again, Linda, I'm sorry, I really struggled with this one. I thought, like, what does it mean to unleash? What does it mean to unleash? And then it finally dawned on me that maybe the whole point of one clear example of unleashing the strengths is the fact that I'm standing here in this room today. The fact that I've been able to use the strength, the perspective, the learnings that I've gained across the years to be here. So that 20-something-year-old young Yumi that was still living in Japan, looking at Finland, thinking, oh my gosh, Finland has perfected this D&I thing, this gender equality thing, and coming here and thinking oh, maybe not, maybe that's an example of unleashing that strength, to know that, oh, there's still some work to do, and maybe I can be part of that journey too. So that is my unleashing my strengths. And with that, I have two closing messages to you all in this room. I'm gonna start with, this is a message predominantly for those who are in the similar global background similar to me. I have questioned, what am I doing in my job? What am I doing in my career? Why am I going to all these different countries? Why am I doing the job that I do? And sometimes you feel kind of lost. And that's when I think the Steve Jobs quote comes into play. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. So yeah, for any of you, you're thinking what am I doing here? Why am I in this cold country? Why is it May, what day is it, May 18th? Or yeah, why is it mid-May, and why am I still wearing this cold winter jacket? You might be wondering why you're here, but hopefully we will all look back and think oh yeah, now it makes sense. This is why I'm in Finland. And then for the folks who may not have that background, perhaps more folks who are in this ally position, one word that I'll leave you with, or one quote that I'll leave you with, is, what do you need? Where this is coming from is, if you see any of your colleagues coming to your workplace on Monday and they seem kind of tired, maybe, just maybe, they were struggling with the washing machine. Maybe they were stealing their neighbor's laundry detergent. And so that's how they were spending their weekend, figuring things out and being resourceful. So my ask for the folks in the room is to please have empathy and ask, what do you need? How can I help? And that is it from me. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Yumi, of your courage and fantastic insights and your experiences. Very valuable. Thank you. All right, we move to the next phase and look at more from the top leaders' point of view and how to get top leaders on board with this important topic, DEI. And I would like to invite now our panelists here. So we have key experts here, Greta Andersson from FIBS. Pick your chair, yeah. Thank you. And then we have Päivi Paanila from Avant Advisors, and then Jonna Louvrier from Includia Leadership. Thank you. And you can sit down now. Excellent. So, and I would like to first ask about you, how would you describe the attitude towards DEI in Finnish companies? And use one word. So, Greta, if you start, because you are working in the FIBS, working with the Nordic and kind of the over 20 years about the network in and ensuring kind of the corporate responsibility. So, how would you describe? Where are we at the moment?
It's so hard to sum up, in my opinion. So with one word, like, you know, when I anticipated this question, so many words kept going in my mind, but I would say confused, maybe.
And why is that?
Well, it's I think most organizations are starting to understand that it's something that needs to be addressed, but they are just having trouble in understanding how to get the ball moving. Yeah.
So confused. I think we all kind of can agree on that. And then Päivi Paanila, you are working at Avant Advisors and with the executive search and ensuring about the equal opportunities and kind of diversity, inclusion and equity in recruitment processes. How would you describe the situation with organizations now?
Yes, I guess first I have to say that we are working at the board and the top management level. So when I look at the audience here, think about me as the old folk here. If I think what's happening and how we have started our company 3.5 years to promote diversity, and really this was the starting point why we thought that executive search in Finland needs to be changed slightly. We've been talking about diversity ever since 3.5 years, and before that already when I was the chair of European Women on Boards. I would say, and I'm really sad to say this, but the word I have in my mind is disengaged. And disengaged to me is top management thinks that it's somewhere, it has to happen somewhere, but it's not here. It's not my job to do it. It's not something that can be done at the top level. Underneath, yes, definitely, let's hire a lot of diverse talent for the lower levels, but here in the boardroom or here in the top leadership team, the backgrounds don't matter. And definitely if I talk about female versus male, then they say, well, it couldn't be, sex is not an issue here, is it? So disengaged, I'm sorry to say, Tua.
Thank you for sharing that, and I think we kind of understand that, and thank you for sharing that somehow magic happens without including the top leaders, so great. And then Jonna Louvrier from Includia Leadership, and you have over 20 years experience supporting organizations with this, so how would you describe?
Yes, yeah, I've got 20 years of experience of following the field, I would say, and maybe 7 years of supporting organizations. I think I bring a bit more of an optimist and positive approach to this. So if I think about these 20 years, the largest part of those years there's been silence and like bewilderment, like what are you speaking about? What is diversity? Why should we care? If you even got to have a discussion with people at top levels. But today I would say that companies, of course now this also describes the type of companies that I come to work with or discuss with are the companies who want to do something, so it's a smaller sample. But I would say openness and curiosity. And I'd like to add a third word, which is
ambition, and why do I want to add ambition is that is something that we always underline when we work with organizations, that we work with ambitious organizations. You might not be ambitious yet, but that is what we want to support you become, because there is no other way working with this issue. You have to have ambitions and really stretch far.
Thank you, and thanks for giving the positive insights here about openness and curiosity, and I think that also resonates very well, and we see in many organizations annual reports, it's on the strategy level, often about something about DEI, but then maybe in the practices is that still missing, and organizations, we all need to have ambitious targets as you shared. So, but why should this be on top leaders' agenda? Who would like to start with?
Why should it be on the agenda? Well, this is a question we are working with really highly ingrained or systems that we need to change. And it's a big cultural transformation in the organization that cross-cuts all the operations. So that it cannot happen by just one HR person driving the change, for instance. So that is why we need top management, right, to be involved. But of course, why should it interest? Because this is really a question of, I would even like to say, like, what is the word now in English? Survival, business survival. Long term, if you do not work with these issues and actively promote inclusion, you will lose.
And as you shared, so and reflecting to Yumi's presentation about Steve Jobs' point, so I think targets and goals are ambitions, and sometimes maybe the steps are a little bit short ones, and we cannot see really that, okay, where are we heading? But we are on the journey, and we can. And I think you, who have been working many years in this, looking now backwards, can see kind of the positive change. But I think we all also agree that it's quite slow anyway. So let's try to figure it out how to accelerate the change. So what are you mentioned about the concrete benefits, but what are the barriers and how we can overcome them? Greta, what would you say?
Well, I think that one of the barriers is that perhaps the leadership doesn't really understand that they need to take a proactive role in sort of like increasing the diversity, and like it was brought up earlier, that the diversity happens at the lower tiers of an organization, which is problematic. Somehow I think that we're so affected by our own circles that we don't necessarily see the change in the society that is taking place, and that is something that will needs to be understood so that the situation can start to change within the organization, and especially in the higher tiers. I don't know, did this make any sense to you?
Päivi, how do you see about the barriers?
Yes, I think I would like to come back to Yumi's presentation and the privileges. If you imagine the top management of Finnish companies, who is there, they are very privileged people, but do they realize that they are privileged? I think it's difficult. You think that you got there because you were very smart, you were very successful at university, you know the right people, and you are the success. That's who you are, and then you think that you have the capability of choosing people around you, maybe even from your gut feeling, because I'm so smart, and they are smart people, don't get me wrong, but they are very, very successful people who maybe do not realize that also they have a bias in choosing the people around them. And with these biases, from your privilege, you think, yes, Juha is better than Leena, or you think Juha is better than Yumi. You know, it's just something that happens naturally to us, and everybody who has a brain has biases, me included, although I try to exclude them every day. But it's human behavior, and those people, they are very successful who are on the top of the companies, and they are used to finding success through their gut, you know, doing every day, doing quick decisions, and I'll get it done. So I think this is part of it.
Yeah, and it's also really, really hard to change something that you're not quite aware of that is happening. Yeah.
But what concrete, Joanna, do you have anything?
Another barrier. Yeah. Yes. Well, I think one of the barriers I see as that we really need to focus on is acknowledging that this is really about a process that we all are involved in. So now we're talking about top management, and top management and leaders have a really important role. But one of the roles is also to have the insight that in order to make this work, we have to bring everyone on board. And that takes time, it does take resources, so are we willing to put that effort in place or not? I was just spending last week, or I arrived on Monday, in the US, speaking with diversity, equity and inclusion scholars and practitioners, and there's been a huge backlash against diversity, equity and inclusion in the US. And what they brought up was especially this, that how did we come here? Well, it's because we did not pay attention. We did not pay attention that everyone was on board. White men were left out. They were not in the discussion, and now here we are. So how do we make sure that every and each one in the organization gets this? And it's not one workshop that will solve it. It is several different pieces that you have to put together, and that is resources. So that is my main concern. How do we make sure that we have the time and patience and resources to bring everyone on board?
And thank you. And that sounds that really needs to be on the organization's company strategy in order, and then also about the culture, way of working. So it's not, as you shared, not one workshop doesn't solve it. It really needs to kind of come in every aspect in the organization.
And there, of course, in order to do that, if top managers do not understand it, do not have the vocabulary, do not know how does this link to our operations, their communication will not be impactful, and that is really crucial for the change to happen.
Yeah, I was recently at this Changemakers Forum, and there it was one question that was tackled was that if there is something that needs to be changed, but the understanding for that need is not where the change should basically originate, you can kind of like start fires around the center or attack it from various fronts, so that slowly these sort of like initiatives will start to crack the challenge in the middle. So I'm just saying this so that we understand that we can all do something even if we're not in a leadership position necessarily.
Yeah, but I believe it's kind of in any transformations or change journeys. So it's really kind of about crystallizing why this is important. Why should I care about this? And I think that crystallizing, especially for the top managers, is really critical.
But I think, Tua, it's interesting. It has been proven through research time and time after again that competitiveness is better when you have a diverse board or diverse leadership team. And now when I talk about diverse, I would like to bring what you also mentioned, cognitive diversity. So let's see, if we look at this room, there are 80 people here, we are all cognitively different. We come from different backgrounds, we bring different experiences. So that's the importance in diversity, more than if there is 50% men and women, or if there is 50% people who have studied economics or engineering. So I think that's something that we should all realize, that it's mostly about, at least for me, the success comes from cognitive diversity, and not only because I'm a woman, I will think differently. So let's keep this also in mind.
Exactly, and as we all know, and that was one of the outcomes when we were running this DEI module with MiB. We had an exercise, group exercise regarding benefits and kind of challenges. And lots of benefits, and the challenge is that it takes time. And sometimes it's a little bit kind of challenging also taking all the ideas and then kind of bear in mind that, okay, my idea doesn't need to win, but it's important that there is a room to express. And we have all the ideas, so that, but yeah. All right, but if thinking now, and as Jonna said, that there are kind of the positive openness and organizations are having this on the agenda, they are working and kind of on the strategy. So anyone you could pick up and share, who are the pioneers, if you're thinking organizations in Finland? Or how to find that information? That might be interesting for the participants to know.
Well, sometimes it kind of like sprouts out of nowhere. Like I don't know. There are probably many here in this room who also noticed on LinkedIn recently a person I had never heard of before started asking like, "Hey, which Finnish companies are hiring foreigners?" And it became a huge thing. Like I think she was interviewed for several media, and there was a huge list of companies. So sometimes it can be a very, very small thing that can sprout a lot of conversation.
I would say the pioneer question is always a difficult one, because in what diversity, equity, and inclusion is such a big area. So what aspect of that will we look at? But maybe I'd like to answer this in thinking about that what really matters is working long term and systematically and keeping going. And so there I would say we have a speaker here. We have from LIDL, Jenny speaking today. So for instance, LIDL working for several years in a planned and structured way. So that is what counts. It doesn't have to be, it's not one initiative, it's not one practice that you put in place that will change things. It's if you are willing to do the hard work, long term, and stick with it.
Yeah.
And if I can answer to where we can look for those companies. So when I was chair of European Women on Boards, we looked at this on a European perspective, which companies have most women on their boards and in their leadership teams. So European Women on Boards still publishes this statistic where you can see that Finland was always around 4th or 5th place in Europe, which is quite good. But this was just about women, share of women. And then I think diversity is so much more than just women. The next index that has been around for some years is Nordic Business Diversity Index, which is pulled together by a company called Impactly. And I think maybe 3 months ago their latest statistics came out, and if you Google you will find that they look at large cap, mid cap and small cap, and they define diversity in age, education, nationality, and what did I forget? There's a 4th one, which I can't remember right now. But anyway, so they give points for each one of these, and it's kind of a accumulation then how many different people they have found on the boards and management teams of different stock listed companies. But there are many other companies that never end up on these lists, and LIDL would not be on the list because it's not stock listed. But when you Google, you can find a lot of lists. It's always a question of how they come up with these lists. Is it just the number of people? It just seems like that's not giving anything about inclusion. It just gives you some data on numbers that looks like they have a lot of women. And we know from research that when there's a lot of women on leadership teams, it probably leads to better inclusion. There is a good chance that there is a good inclusion as well when you have a diverse leadership team, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
I kind of wanted to comment or maybe start a small conversation with Jonna about you mentioned that how it takes a lot of strategic effort and all this, but what comes to my mind that often the examples of the practical level things that are done, they're really simple. They don't always have to be there's a huge strategic push to do something, but it's for example inclusive language is it's very simple to do, but it has a huge effect on the environment.
Absolutely, and mostly diversity, equity, and inclusion is it's not rocket science. It's really simple practices. Yeah. What counts is having several small steps and going in the same direction. Yeah. So just having inclusive language practices is a really great thing, but it doesn't really yet change a full organizational culture. But then when you have that with this and this and this,
it's like those little fires around
that creates
problematic center.
Yes, absolutely.
And anything else, concrete examples that you have seen that has left kind of the very positive impression on you regarding DEI leadership?
Maybe I'd like to say what really has marked me is being brave. When you see organizations do something that you would not expect them to do yet. That's something that I really like. And I'm thinking, for instance, I worked with Liitto several years ago, maybe in 2018. And what they put in place at that time, and DEI was almost not spoken about in 2018. We had a workshop series on the DEI, then one targeted at women and one targeted only at men. And I thought that was a really great example of braveness. But okay, we're not even really speaking about this yet, but let's have a session just for men. How can men support gender equality and diversity?
And let me build on that. As I mentioned, I was chair of European Women on Boards for 2 years, and it's a Brussels-based association promoting female leadership, obviously, mentoring and coaching and giving courses. But they decided after me, I can't take any credit for this, but they decided to take men on the board of European Women on Boards. So the association is called European Women on Boards, and there's a couple of men on the board, which is wonderful. And they are talking about this allyship the whole time. You know, how can we find male allies who believe that the value of having women on boards is truly there, and who speak about it, and because somehow I believe there is something that women speak women, men speak men. When I try to convince a man about the fact that, you know, it's really great that you take another woman on your board, maybe they don't listen to me the same way as they would listen to me if I was somebody else. So I would really encourage everybody to think, can I find a guy who maybe has 2 daughters at home or is somehow willing to talk about this, and let me talk to him about how important it would be that, hey Juha, could you tell your friends that it's really important that we support these DEI initiatives. So these are very simple things, but that's what I do in my work. I try to find male leaders who have daughters or who I can see could be open-minded enough to actually speak to a couple of their friends and talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion and how important it is and what the benefits are.
And if I may stay on this like a gender level here, there is this wonderful tool. This links much to what you guys were saying, where if like some DEI issue or equality issue needs to be addressed, men discuss it first among themselves and women among themselves, and then these groups come together and they share their separate understandings, and that kind of like opens them to view issues in a much deeper way than if they are immediately brought together to address the question.
Yeah, thanks. Great concrete examples. We started a panel discussion about you sharing about one word, which is a challenging one. Where are we at the moment? And it was about confused, disengaged, openness and curiosity. So now I would like to give you a crystal ball and ask, where are we in 3 years? What do you think? And you can describe, you don't need to pick one word, but just in 3 years. Oh, where are we?
I want to start because I know that Jonna will leave on a positive note.
Okay.
Exactly. So we did a survey, actually together with Includia Leadership at FIBS, which was published in 2022 November, about how the future looks like for Finnish organizations, and there. Most were of the opinion that the importance of the DEI themes is going to grow, but they also forecasted that there will not be more resources put towards this. And if there are no resources, it's more challenging, of course, than to advance things. So where are we going to be? I do hope that the resources are found and the work gets done, but I'm not holding my breath. Jonna will. Jonna will. Say something happier.
Yeah, and I guess even small steps count.
They really do. Yeah. They really do. Yes.
Päivi.
Okay, so in 3 years' time it's 2027, and you know that in 2026 the directive on gender on corporate boards is coming into effect, which means that there should always be 40% of either sex on the board of a corporate stock-listed company. If it's above 250 employees and so on, there are some other statistics that need to be taken into account. But okay, this gives me hope that on the boards of directors, the Finnish companies will aim at 40% women. And you know that today we stand at 32%. So it looks like it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal. Because the 32% that are there, some of them will retire. And also there is this fact that who is currently on the board of directors, it is women who have P&L responsibility. Either they have been managing directors, they have been at least sales directors, they have shown through numbers that they can do this. So women, if we don't get into those P&L positions, we will be in trouble. So everybody who has the aspiration to be on a board should prepare themselves. You cannot get there just by raising your hand, I'm a woman. No. Currently, the responsibility is really hard to be there, and also to be on a corporate leadership team. So definitely I encourage all women, think about your careers. Don't just go around and expect somebody to see you, because they will not see you. You have to set your own ambitious goals, go to where you want to go, and if we want to have 40% of women on boards of directors by 2026, a lot needs to happen in this country, but we also have a responsibility in it.
Thanks. And Jonna?
Yeah. Well, coming maybe back to Greta and the results from FIBS that there will be no more resources, or there will not be increased resources for D&I. What I think now, regardless of this, is that D&I as a space, well, started from the corporate social responsibility or a divided role with HR. Now it's very strongly in HR. I think that will change, or change and not change. What I foresee is that diversity, equity, and inclusion work will be integrated into all different operations, and there will be more specialization. Now it's often it's a project by itself, or it's not integrated in all aspects of doing, and that is what I think will happen. And maybe the budget will come from there. So it's not a D&I budget, it's not an HR budget, it is a sales budget, it is a communication budget that will lead to these the types of changes or finance the different things that need to be done. So more specialization, and I think hopefully also more. We will start to see more diversity in different physical spaces. For instance, maybe in 3 years' time, this room would look different, hopefully.
maybe this panel would look different.
Maybe
Yes.
the balance would look different.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
pretty indicative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a white
Yes.
panel
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
about diversity, equality,
Yes.
inclusion.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think we have possibility for one question. So, and I don't know if we have the microphone somewhere.
I think I can speak out shout. I don't want
Sorry, we have a microphone. Yeah.
because my English is not that good, but I was just thinking what is the DEI mindset? Because for the leadership board is only limited people, so if you get the leaders who has DEI mindset, it will be important for the board. That's what my comments maybe for the one of once you are in the talking. Maybe it's not a question.
I didn't catch it.
Can you just shortly describe once again? We had a challenging to follow.
DEI mindset.
Mindset of DEI.
Mindset, DEI mindset.
Mindset.
What is it, DEI mindset?
It's like the leaders have quite a has quite a good skills on DEI.
Oh, you mean how do you get leaders on board with DEI initiatives, for example? Or like how do you get leadership members to have a DEI mindset?
Yeah, in fact, it's just like a bit different because when we talk about the DEI, usually we talk is about community. But then when I think about this DEI qualities, I think a person can also have what is have quite a diverse like knowledge and equal emphasis of equality, and also have quite inclusive like social skills. So that's why a leader can have quite a strong DEI quality. That's what I mean. And this kind of person in the top leader board would be important.
Oh, yes, wonderful. Yeah. This is a question for me. Thank you, thank you. Yes, how can we at Executive Search find the people who have the right DEI mindset to be on the board? Yes, and this is what we do all the time. Yes, absolutely. So it is important for us when we are doing our work. So companies look for members for their boards and for their leadership teams. And what we do through our search is we pay much attention to whether this person has the qualities to lead a diverse team and has shown inclusive leadership style. So, and it is actually something that when I said that people are disengaged, I want to correct that. There are companies that are actually talking about inclusive leadership, that they are looking for servant leadership or they are looking for leaders who have this inclusive style. And this is something we test. So I interview and we do personality tests to find out which people actually could have this quality. Thank you for the question.
And thank you for the panel, Jonna, Päivi and Greta.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we move forward, and I would like to invite now Miikka Huhta, consultant and author from Miltton. And yeah, interesting to hear how to build inclusion at the workplace. We have now crystallized that there are challenges.
Indeed. Okay. So hi, and good morning. Nice to see so many familiar faces. There's allies here, all the way from my, let's say, the biggest school of my working life, from SEB. Thank you guys for showing up as well. So yeah, I'm Miikka, not Juha, but a father of 2 daughters. So I guess that's one reason I'm here as well. The picture there on the left actually has a lot of meaning to it. It's from the School of Economics, where I studied. So my viewpoint to this topic is more or less from a business or business and then like management perspective. I studied management and then went on to work in HR. Worked first at SEB and then at Canon. Did lots of different roles. But then 8 years ago, I decided I wanted to focus on the biggest love of my work life, which was employer branding. And then that turned into a career in consulting. And for the past 6 years, I've worked at Miltton, which is the biggest communications agency here in Finland. And in the picture, I'm on paternal leave, on leave from Miltton, taking care of our 1-year-old who's there in the picture when she was just born and got a onesie from Miltton as a gift. And I'm holding our first book about employer branding and employee experience, which I co-authored with Visa Myllenthal, who works at K Group. It's like a side hustle of ours that eventually are somehow turned into another book as well, which was then about diversity at the workplace that just came out in December. Yeah, and in the picture, so I'm in the School of Economics talking about employer branding, taking leave from paternal leave for the afternoon. But after that, what happened after that event, I went back to paternal leave, and during the paternal leave, I was working on the second book. And that's based on going almost through 400 sources and doing 49 interviews. So it's not a book about me or Visa and our experiences. Of course, as mentioned before, there's lots of different aspects to diversity. It doesn't all show. And of course, we as well, even though we are super privileged, we have our differences and diversity stories, but we don't share it in the book. But we rather try to have a holistic perspective to this topic. But just to point out, I think it's good to remember when talking about inclusion that it's not a thing about us versus them, about the majority or versus the minority, or the majority doing something just for the minority. Of course, that's a big thing why we need to focus on it, but it's also good to remind ourselves and people around us that we've all felt excluded in our lives. Like, for example, I was bullied in elementary school for years. On my 9th birthday, none of my friends showed up because one of the bullies had agitated them to skip my birthday. So a feeling of exclusion, I'm sure everybody can feel, but of course, unfortunately, for others, there's more of it. It might be even on a daily basis that you don't feel included in the workplace or even in the society. And with that, in the next 18 minutes or so, I'll quickly go through the framework. As said, I'm a consultant, I love frameworks. And in our book, we have 100 actions that any employer can at least consider to implement and take note of to build a more inclusive workplace. And I'll give you a few examples of each, but then luckily we'll hear more from Lidl about the concrete part of building an inclusive workplace. So bear with me, there's going to be frameworks, consultant slides, and this high-level thoughts that we collected through our book writing process. So first, another point that yes, inclusivity is something that is a thing for us all, but it's nothing new in the workplaces. Of course, in Finland as well, we've done a lot of work, especially for gender equality, but for other aspects of equality as well. We've done lots of things, for example, to make sure that also us parents of small children have the possibility of, to work and live these two important roles at the same time, being a parent of a small child and being an employee. And it's good to note that, of course, we have had workplaces in Finland that are and have been diverse already, and those are just the amount of diversity in the workplace is just, of course, getting bigger because through immigration, but also because of us understanding diversity in a more diverse way. Not thinking of it through gender or race or age anymore, but in various ways like neurodiversity and such. But just a few years back, there was this diversity parameter where or the HR representatives of organizations gave an estimate of how diverse their workplaces today are. And a few years back, only 25% felt that their workplace is now diverse. And at the same time, another 25% said that, yeah, we're not at all diverse. So we've still got let's say, a lot of work ahead of us, because of course the workplaces, as said, are getting more diverse every day. And another thing good to note and remember, according to lots and lots of academic studies, diversity as such doesn't necessarily bring benefits. It might actually bring conflicts. If you bring different kinds of people together, there for sure is a good chance, a big risk of conflicts, arguments, and such. But according to studies, under the right conditions, you can reap the benefits of having a diverse team, for example, getting more diverse creativity out of them, for example. And that kind of the common denominator for the right condition is for the workplace to be inclusive. And here's one definition of what is an inclusive workplace then. It's one where you can feel safe, you can feel like an insider, you feel respected and valued, you can influence decision making, you can be authentic, and sixth, you can see that diversity is something that is recognized and honored, and actually that the organization does something about it. How many of you are lucky enough to work in a workplace like this, or the place that you worked previously was one that ticked all the 6 boxes? Okay, cool. So many already. Others have something to do, either to change your job or then to develop that workplace. Because of course things can change, but it will take some time. And when starting on that change journey, I think it's good to note and remember that yes, inclusion is a thing for us all, but of course, unfortunately, it's one that is also something that raises question marks and is unfortunately objected in various ways. And this is one simplification of typical ways of how people object to inclusion. It can be that they feel that it's not a problem at all. We were just speaking at a company a few weeks back where in their diversity survey, one person said that, yeah, we're not diverse at all. So we don't need to, well, like, why are we even talking about this? And he or she apparently had not recognized that there's different kinds of diversity than what you can see from the outside. Then it can be also that, hey, it's not my problem. So thinking of the garlic picture, I think it's good to outline to all that, yes, as a matter of fact, we all need inclusion. And of course, the third point could be that, hey, what about all the other problems out there? What about our declining turnover or something else? Yeah, there's a lot of these objections that you then need to consider and have your elevator pitch to counteract them. I will not go through the benefits as such. There's of course different ways to state out loud why you should consider inclusion as your problem and a problem that you need to focus on. But let's not address that, because what I promised to talk about was the framework related to building an inclusive workplace. Based on the sources that went through and the 49 interviews, we then squeezed together those key learnings to 100 actions that we put under 3 themes. First being choices, the second one being about integrating those choices to various places, as was mentioned in the panel discussion. In an ideal world, and hopefully soon enough, diversity and inclusion and the equity work will be part of, or like a normal part of the organization in its various processes and culture and such, and not a separate thing that is done as a project or as as a thing that you every now and then just put on the table. And once the choices are implemented, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, of course, together. It's not something that you can get over with and just tick the box and move on. I'll give you a few examples of each three. First, starting with the choices. When looking at the diversity work in organizations, it's good to note that, of course, a lot of things are already mandated by law. So you need to do something about this. It's a good argument already. But at the same time, it's good to note that even though the law mandates it, still, at least in 2020, 68% of the companies that by law should have done a gender equality plan had done it. So there was 1/3 of organizations had not done one, even though it's not that demanding. I've done one back in the days, unfortunately, have to admit, in a very copy and paste manner. It was 10 years ago, and yeah, for sure it was not an exemplary act. But still, it wasn't that hard to do, but still many organizations skip it. So basically the choices are about, we broke it down to these 5 themes, but basically it's, hitting what the law requires from a gender equality and an equality plan. And in a nutshell, it's about identifying the kind of the problem, the diversity, or identifying the current state of like how diverse your organization is and what is the feeling of inclusivity. Based on that, you get an idea of the needs of the employees, where you need to focus. You combine that with the needs of the organization. What is the strategic need for this? And you make a choice. Where do you want to focus on? You commit to some kind of diversity work, and then you make an action plan. Not more than that. So it doesn't take much, but of course it's easier said than done. But it's good to start with recognizing that, yes, as said many times before, it's not a new thing, and many organizations have done a lot of things to be more inclusive. It might be that we just haven't realized to call it as such, but there's a variety of things that in many organizations they've already done. And a good starting point, our action number 1 is to identify your maturity level. Where are you at the moment? There's lots of tools out there, free ones. One being from FIBS, but I just learned that they now got even a better one. So yes, Google away to find a maturity self-assessment tool that fits or works well for you. And that's a good starting point. Make an inventory where you are at, and then of course those tools to help you out in identifying what could be the next steps in your company's inclusion journey. Okay, once you've made those choices, then you need to implement them to a lot of different things. And that's of course time consuming and effort consuming. It's a lot to do with both the organization needs to start doing things differently, but then also the individuals need to first reflect how they act and behave, and then start changing how they go about things. And so it's going to take time. But it's good to note that at least the 100 actions that we identified, the majority of them don't cost much or don't cost anything. So even though there's examples from Microsoft and companies like them, global big companies with budgets and stuff, the stuff that they do is something that even the smaller Finnish organizations can copy with pride, for sure. We then simplify that the choices need to be implemented in these 5 things. And one very important thing is recruiting. Of course, if you want to change the diversity of your workplace, recruiting is key tool for that. And one very simple recruiting point of view, and I would say, I was just thinking to call it a recruitment process, but it's a part of many recruitment processes, but of course not for all. But in many companies, employee referrals is an important way to recruit people. It's a cheap and effective way. But it's good to reflect and ask your people to consider that if we don't want to just multiply the employee base that we have, maybe it's good to remind our people that when you're referring a job to someone you know, or you referring a person to a job that we have an opening for, then maybe consider not referring a person that is just like you and who you see as a culture fit to the organization, but rather consider if you would know someone who would be a culture add. In the end, a small ask, but it can, in the long run, turn into you getting more and more diverse colleagues. And the third point was that once you've made the choices and you implement it into various things, so a lot of work is there already, but of course it's a continuing journey, and you need to bring people together. But when bringing people together, it's good to note that there's one that according to lots and lots of academic research, there's this one thing that organizations typically do that actually can have negative impact. And who wants to say what is that action that has a risk of doing something worse rather than being a good thing? Any guesses? Okay, it's the trainings, at least one of trainings. According to lots of studies, it actually can even make people's prejudices worse if they just once go through a bias training or a similar exercise where they might realize that they have biases, but then they might feel that, okay, now I'm done, I don't have to consider them anymore. So it's good to note that a one-off training is, of course, gets you further on the road, but might have negative impacts as well. But rather of a one-off training, it's good to, of course, increase the understanding, which is one of the three things here. That's of course important, but it's only it can be only a part of your inclusion work. You need that implementation of your choices, and even in the understanding building, it's better to have a longer process of where you have various different trainings and get to exercise doing things differently and so on. Collaboration is a good thing to consider with other organizations, even with your competitors. For example, in the IT industry, they've done a lot of work together as well. And the third point is that the organization and its leaders or the developers, the HR people, shouldn't do it alone. You should, of course, invite people to change things. And one very common way of doing it is to use employee resource groups. One company that has, at least to my understanding, has done a very good job with kind of building an ecosystem for these ERGs is Nordea, and I highly recommend reading Victor Brück's blog from FIBS on their ERGs and how they run it and how they take them on board on making a change together. Okay, to sum it up, to end with, in an inclusive workplace, it's good to note that you shouldn't aim for being a know-it-all, but rather learn-it-all. Especially for the leaders, it's good to highlight that you don't, of course, for many it might feel like a topic that feels maybe weird, or at least hard, like there's terms and things coming up that I don't know about, my God, maybe I'll just turn a blind eye, some might think. But it's rather better to underline that, hey, you can't know it all. Like, there's so many issues coming up when when you consider or start working on being a more inclusive workplace that you could not have a clue of. So better, instead of trying to have all the answers, rather be open about it that, hey, I don't have them, but I'm willing to learn and want to learn, and invite the individual or individuals who raise the issue or a thing that needs to be addressed. Bring them along to find the answer rather than try to fix it yourself. Here's a few book recommendations. Of course, I've learned that if you do something, you also got to sell it. So our book is on the list as well. And the two first ones are the Daniel Kahneman and Amy Edmondson book are, of course, I'm sure many of you have already read them. But they're great about biases and about building a more psychological safety in the workplace. Both good reads. And then, for example, my ex-colleagues, Sarah's story is a great example of a story of what it feels to be excluded. And of course, there's a variety of other books like it as well out there. So these ones are ones that you might consider. And to leave off with one more thought from Spider-Man is that it's good to note that organizations, as well as especially the leaders in those organizations, have great power. And with that great power, there's great responsibility. Remember to underline that the next time you talk about this topic. It's just not only a business case, you can get benefits out of it, but it's the right thing to do as well. So with that, I'll leave you to it.
Thank you so much, and great insights and frameworks and how to practically can get work and actions regarding DEI work. And now I want to invite Jenny Nordgren from LIDL and really concrete case examples. So welcome.
Great,
Jenny.
Thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here today. I'm Jonna Nordgren. I work as a head of HRD at LIDL in Finland. Some of my career background at LIDL, I've been there at the head office now for a bit more than 10 years at the moment, doing different HR-related roles, and now since about 2 years, 1.5 years, I've been the head of department. And we in HRD are responsible for all talent, learning and development, engagement, culture topics. Well-being is also one of our themes, and of course, diversity, which is the important topic of today. I am a mom of a 4-year-old as well, and I myself joined Mothers in Business when I was on maternity leave then a couple of years back, and I think this day is also a great example of how to combine the business and work life to the family, as now I'm the speaker in this event, and after the event I will join the Mother's Day celebration in the daycare that the kids have been preparing. So looking forward to that as well. But yeah, then to my presentation, I have more concrete examples and steps that we have taken to lead DEI or D&I at LIDL here in Finland. But first, before I'll go to my presentation concerning diversity, a couple of words of us as a company and what we are in Finland today. I think the global and local perspectives are perfectly combined. That is something I want to start with. LIDL is one of the Europe's largest grocery chains, as you might know, and the internationality is reflected in the product selection and quite refined operating models. I think we have great international processes and products, practices at our disposal, and we cooperate a lot with our international colleagues all over Europe and also in US and Asia to some extent. And it's great that we have the extensive network. We can offer the products and the best products from all European countries. But from the employee point of view, I think the internationality is a great opportunity to have an exchange and work with colleagues representing different nationalities and to get trainings and experience from them. Our parent company, LIDL Stiftung, and we are part of Schwarz Group, that is still based in Germany, in Neckarsulm. They act as like a service provider for us and are supporter for us to the countries. They develop the processes, international standards, and we apply them into practice. But we localize, so we operate also very locally. We localize everything to our needs, to the cultural needs of Finnish customers and also the Finnish employees or our employees working in Finland. And here you can see the Schwarz Group. It consists of the grocery store chains Lidl and Kaufland, but we also have Kaufland Schwarz Production and Schwarz Digits, as well as the recycling company PreZero under the same Schwarz Group. And the elements of our concept based on simplicity, efficiency, best quality-price ratio, I would say. Oh, not there yet. Yes, I was too fast. Yeah, important that we can serve customers in all environments. We have a store concept for the city areas, more rural areas as well, and you can find Lidl stores more and more often also in city centers, and effective logistics is also important for our business. And what comes to sustainability, our goal is to make responsibility a daily routine for our customers, for our employees, for our cooperation partners. We have published the last sustainability report in 2021, and if you're interested, you can find that on our website and check for information. We have some points or goals relating to diversity there as well. And still about us as an employer, we have at the moment about 5,800 employees in Finland who work in stores, warehouses also in our head office. We have 200 different positions in Finland, and what is important for us? The great employee experience. We want that everyone can feel valued, appreciated, and that they can feel themselves or be themselves at work. And I think our success is built on training and developing our people. We have built quite wide training, well-being programs, and also understand that there are situations in life when the flexibility, for example, is needed as well. Yeah, but as said, we are employer of lot more than 5,000 employees, 350, 370 employees worldwide. The diversity means different experiences, backgrounds, knowledge, ideas, and it's important for us about the inclusion that we can create the right framework so that we can work according to our values and have everyone feeling included. And I think it goes without saying that also the employees are, or diversity of our employees are also a great asset for us. And it's also a benefit for our customers who are also very diverse, as everyone living in Finland might visit our stores. So, yep. But then about leading day at Lidl and more to our business case, we strongly believe that when we are leading day in a goal-oriented way and it's managed well and we have the top management support, we can see the positive benefits on the availability of the internal and external talent pool that we have, also in employee retention, the overall satisfaction, and also in the experience what comes to leadership or leadership experience. And as said, also the customer base is so diverse, so then we are able to serve our customers as well. What did just happen? Oh, now it's back. Yeah. And about the framework that I have built, or the presentation has been built on the framework by Miikka's and Visa's book, and it inspired me to look at back at the path that we have had in regards of diversity management, and also to see all those good smaller and bigger things that we have done. And I think it also gave me enthusiasm to see what we could do as next steps, or what we haven't done, or what has not been in our focus yet. As I think it's, yeah, as said before, it's a combination of like big changes such as developing a company culture, but also the smaller things like we have introduced a translation app for our employees so that if someone is not yet fluent in Finnish, they can translate the intra or employee app texts in the language they would prefer the most. But yeah, long-term work. And I will go through the 3 areas with a couple of examples. And first I'll start with the part 1 or choices. In 21 we started to lead diversity more consciously, and as said, we have always been a diverse company in what comes to our customers and what employees, and we had good foundation for diversity management also from before, as we had quite clear salary structures and talent management process and quite clear recruitment practices, for example. But when the management commitment and our HR commitment was clear, then we started to work more focused on this topic and started to formulate a diversity action plan or strategy. We also published a D&I policy at that time. And in the beginning, we analyzed our current situation or the situation at that time, and there we checked the gender pay gap or made a gender pay gap analysis and did some targeted employee interviews and had external consultation support to spar us how to do or start the leading day most effectively, and what are the process adaptations we could do to lead equity and inclusion at Lidl. And now a couple of years later, Team Lidl is also a part of our business strategy. This includes the idea that Lidl employees and that our culture also enable the success of our business strategy, and there the diversity and feeling of inclusion, or inclusion and feeling of belonging, are also key elements in that. And here's a summary. I took a couple of points what we took into account at the very beginning in 21 when we started to focus our on leading diversity more consciously. And perhaps these are interesting points to someone who might be in a similar situation now or is planning on the first diversity actions. First, it was important, of course, to get the commitment of relevant stakeholders on top leaders, business leaders or business stakeholders, and to say and discuss why we are doing this, and why we want to start leading this. And generally, of course, we recognize the legislation as a basic requirement, but we were also committed to our CSR goals, to FIBS D&I commitment and woman empowerment principles. And we had also recognized diversity as a business risk if we do not lead it consciously. But then as a foundation, it's deeply in our values to respect diversity of people and to make everyone feel appreciated and valued. But then we needed to strengthen our own competencies and know-how of the topic. We organized trainings for HR, for other relevant stakeholders, for example, our business specialist working in head office and regional HR. What is it about to lead DEI and what are important aspects? So we organized some trainings and also the discussion of resourcing. Who are like the main lead and who is like the main lead and what does the regional HR do? What does the business units do and what is the role of the head office HR, for example, and then the manager role and so on. And we formed a working group of communication and HR professionals and business professionals to get the active work going. And then we did the assessment of the starting situation. We checked the data in the equality or equity plan. We checked the employee experience data of our service in that time. And we also did the FIBS self-assessment tool was mentioned already. We also did that to see where we are like the beginner or the developer and where we could or what should be or could be the most important to focus on. But then we made an action plan with some actions, goals, KPIs or signs of success, and started to implement on that and communicate to our employees. We are a workplace of more than 200 stores and warehouses, so communication is a lot of effort to reach all of our salespersons and all of the 400 managers in Finland at all levels. I have mentioned our D&I policy a couple of times, and this serves us as a commitment of what we want to do, what we want to be, and I think it also is a good base for our action plan if these are the main areas, and then we can build on concrete initiatives under each. And it's also a promise to our employees and other partners externally as well. But we want to increase awareness to diversity and inclusion by communicating, by increasing the know-how of our little employees. We want to promote inclusion so that work environment treats everyone respectfully, equally, regardless of age, culture, ethnic or social origin, or any other characteristic. And we want to promote open, fair, appreciative culture so that everyone can utilize their potential. But then we also show the commitment to diversity and inclusion through strategic partnerships, selected networks, both in Finland, also internationally, so that we also show our support for initiatives that strengthen diversity and inclusion. Some KPIs that I want to share as well that can show us our development. First, we have the diversity cockpit. It gives us retention data based on gender, age, or years in the company. Also, the contract structure. I mean, weekly working hours. For warehouse and store employees, so that we can recognize retention risks or lack of retention in some of the group, if the fluctuation is higher, I mean. Then we conduct annual gender pay gap analysis. That's also followed or done per different employee groups so that we can focus our initiatives on some specific group if we notice a wider gap in some area. Our gender pay gap last year was 4.6%, and it has had a positive direction, mean of the gender pay gap, I mean. Then we have an employer brand survey that is done externally every year, internally every other year, and it shows positive perception on diversity, both by internal and external respondents. And it's diversity is considered according to this survey a strength by both groups. And then we just launched a new KPI fiilismittari or mood barometer, or what is it in English? What we don't have is a real diversity survey. That is something we don't have, but these other surveys, also exit survey, they can give us signals and supportive information of our employee experience that we can use to see the development. And top employer survey is also something that we are doing on a yearly basis. Of course, we want to receive the certificate, but also then see how DEI is seen there. And DEI is a part of our CSR strategy. As said, Team Lidl is part of our business strategy. We can see that diversity is led most efficiently when it's combined to the existing structures. And there we see that having diversity goals in CSR program is very strong tool for us to lead that as well. But then to the integration part, I recognize all of these 5 elements as very important for the integration, but here I would like to point out specifically 2 areas. And we are a process-driven company. That is also our strength. And processes are lived every day in working life. And if we focus on equity in processes, then we can quite efficiently support diversity and inclusion every day. And here, for example, salary structures, talent, recruitment, working life flexibilities are examples of that. How we update the processes, recognize the change needs, or when we train them or inform or communicate of them, then that we always remember diversity or equity as important topic. And then secondly, the values and leadership. Leadership principles are the second point I would like to point out, as if the values or behavioral descriptions include inclusive behavior. That is a great foundation, I think, as then the inclusion is included in the expectation of what we expect of everyone in the organization. And for example, our leadership principles include caring and coaching approach, which in itself includes valuing everyone as individual and interest in the thoughts of others and the desire to develop others further. I will not go to these in more detail, but these are the 4 fields of action or integration in Lidl's model. If I'll think of how to integrate the culture and mindset and non-discriminatory processes, how to create awareness, and then the communication commitment part. Going too quickly. Now, yes. Together. Here I would like to share 3 elements. for first to get developing together with our employees. We had a diversity working group to enable a good start. We have an idea management channel that everyone, or where everyone can present their ideas how we can develop as an employer or as a business further. And we have got some great ideas from our employees who are rewarded as well if we implement those ideas. We also have team little employee resource groups. I also see potential in using them more focused on diversity management or inclusion and feeling of belonging also in the future. In future, that's something we could still do more, or still do more with them. And then, of course, if someone encounters inappropriate behavior at work, we want to know about it and act. And this is a topic we have had communication initiatives to be quite clear about our expectation, but also to inform the concrete reporting channels. But then we want to develop and develop together with our external partners, FIBS, Women Empowerment Network, Mothers in Business, and Pride, our new partners this year, so really looking forward to that. And then our international organization is a great support for us. And shortly coming back to the topic of Together, it's a screenshot of our CSR program, as we want to have dialogue, and we see it important for our development to have dialogue with internal, external partners, and we strongly recognize that D&I develops through the dialogue. And it's important to get the new insights, what works well, where is still room for development. For us, the important stakeholders include our employees, external DEI partnerships, and other cooperation partners. The Together part, as I said, also includes cooperating with LIDL International, as meaning the parent company, and then LIDL here in Finland. And the LIDL International is more like showing and giving us strategic group-wide commitment. This is important for us as a LIDL group globally, and they act as a sparring partner towards us in the country and support our local implementations. And of course, they should and they do integrate DEI in business strategy, values, leadership behaviors, processes that come directly from them, and they facilitate the discussion and exchange between all countries. And then we in Finland are more responsible for localization, design, taking into account any cultural aspects that are important in our country and in our business here in Finland. But we are responsible then for leading our own KPIs in country, and if they give us the position, attitude, mindset, we are more like the role model multiplier in country level. And just to show you what we are planning to do now in 2024, we have a big efforts and initiatives on culture side. We are stepping on a culture journey. I'm really excited about that. But then also gender pay gap, fair pay journey, or gender pay gap is actually more like a KPI. Fair pay is the goal and the main thing. We want to learn and develop with our partners, and want to ensure that also our competencies in HR, everyone who is involved in relevant processes such as recruiting and talent, can and knows how to recognize our own unconscious bias. As already said, we can also have them, so that we who do the processes or have a big role in facilitation of them have the basic understanding of that. And we are also planning to get a broader, diverse talent pool that will be on our focus in recruiting, but internally as well. Yes, but work is still continuing. We won't be ready today or tomorrow. It's step by step, as also said before. We have to, or you have to have ambition, as Jonna said, I think. And all in all, I think it's very necessary and important from business point of view that every employee can feel that they are involved, they can feel belonging, valued, and that they are an important part of LIDL. And for example, it's a salesperson who encounters our customers and enables the great customer experience. And by leading dates in our values, it's important to do, but then we also take care of our customers, and that's why we want to consider diversity and inclusion in everything what we do. But thank you for your interest, and I'm looking forward to hearing your insights in that workshop soon.
Thank you, Jenny, and great story and great journey you have already done, and more to come, I'm sure. Thank you, all of you. We have been very intensive and kind of different kind of insights. So we will now have a break, 10 minutes break. So please move your shoulders and brain. We would like to take a photo, a group photo, in front of the door. So all of those who want to be part of that photo, if we start with that, and then you can have a coffee and take some other break activities.
All right.
Yes.
A couple more words. Thank you, everybody in the stream. Our streaming ends at this point. In this live event, we will continue kind of now mixing the tables too, so please use this time to talk to someone, get your voice opened, and get started. But buy a break too. So shortly back with the live participants, and thank you everybody.